Hey, how's it going? It is Monday, July 19th at 4:52 p.m. Central European Summertime. My name is Eric. You're listening to Eric on the World. I am still in Barcelona. And by the way, if you're watching on my Instagram stories, feel free to skip on through because there's going to be a whole podcast uploaded to my stories. That's a new approach I'm trying. Why am I still in Barcelona? Well, funny story. By the way, my blood is boiling right now. I'll get to that. That's always a good way to podcast, when daddy's upset. I was supposed to be flying out last Wednesday and staying in the hostel, having a, good time, partying, going out. It's a hostel. You get, people get sick when you travel around, but I'm vaccinated, so, what's the worry? And there is a friend who kind of had a cough, but she's a doctor. She's actually a COVID doctor, and she, parties a lot and, smoker's cough, right? But then someone else in my hostel kind of started to get this cough, and then lo and behold, I started to get this cough, which I alluded to last episode, and kind of joked about having COVID. And that was last Monday. The following day, I went to La Sagrada Familia. I was going to do a whole podcast on that. Some culture, some history. But nope, that's not about that anymore. Now it's about me again. So I'm sitting, and I went to go get like paella, which I've never had. I didn't realize it was supposed to be this big communal dish. I was just by myself, but went to this restaurant, opted to not get the paella upon a friend's advice. And I got for 12 euros, like a 3-course meal plus, water and a beer. It's like, this is a good deal. And then I drank like a quarter of the beer, and I was like, I am not feeling drinking this beer. And that just let me know I was in bad shape in terms of just overextending myself party wise, and just feeling really inflamed. If you just drink like a fish for a week straight, or in my case, a month straight. And decided I was thinking maybe I should get tested. I didn't realize they have these at-home COVID tests for $10, €9. And I thought, and I started to play out in my mind what would happen if I did that. I'm like, well, fuck, I'd have to cancel my flight. Some 18-year-olds that were unvaccinated did test positive in the hostel previously in the week, and they got kicked out immediately. It's I get kicked out of the hostel. I have to cancel my flight. I have to cancel my Airbnb in Berlin. I have to find a place to fucking quarantine. It's maybe I can get tested once I'm in Berlin. Oh, and I had my one of my good German friends' birthday parties. I was super excited for, finally getting back to Berlin, and. So I was gonna okay, I'll just I guess I'll get tested when I get to Berlin. Plus, I'm vaccinated, I can't have it. But then I started to play out man, I'm gonna be on an international flight, going to this birthday party thing. I would feel kind of like a shithead. If someone asked me, why didn't you get tested? The reality would be, I'd be like, 'cause I didn't want to. I didn't want to fuck up my plans. I thought, no, Eric, when you're presented with these things, you try to do the upstanding thing, why don't you go and get tested? And then you'll have peace of mind, you'll be negative, and you'll just carry on. So I went to the pharmacy, told the woman, hey, a couple people in my hostel tested positive, because apparently you may sometimes need a prescription to get these things, although I think they've really relaxed those rules because Spain, in particular, Catalonia, in particular, Barcelona is a super fucking hotspot for COVID and this Delta variant. So she just gave me the test, and I went back to the hostel, and I was trying to find a place to do it, and I went into the bathroom it was going to be a fucking pregnancy test, but I didn't want to sit on the toilet. I felt like a teenage girl having this done, and and I read the instructions, and I've never done this. They don't have these tests, I don't believe, in the States. Whereas a lot of Europeans are very used to taking these tests. So there's, 10 minutes worth of directions I'm reading, and I'm I need 5 different hands to hold all these different things. I'm let me just go out into the main room of the hostel and do it where there's a nice flat surface and I can sit down. And it's obvious what I'm going to be doing. So I kind of have to announce to there's this British guy nearby, and I'm hey, I'm taking a COVID test. That would be crazy if it was positive, but obviously it won't be. But obviously if it was, that would suck. And so I take the test, and you basically like take a swab from your nose, put it in this vial with this solution, and then take the solution and pour it onto this test strip, which looks like a at-home pregnancy test. And then you wait 20 minutes. So I put 3 drops of this solution along with the culture from my nose onto the strip test, and like within like a minute, you see like a tiny. Well, so you have the main there's 2 lines means bad, 1 line means good. The first line shows up right away. And then like this tiny faint second line. And I'm like, well, that's definitely like not like a clear, bold second line. And it gets like a little bit clearer as the time progresses. But like really within like 3 minutes, it was like as dark as it was ever going to get. But nonetheless, you could see like a faint line. So the guy comes over, the British guy, and he's like, that's not good. And I was like, he's like, I've done hundreds of these tests and I've never seen a line like that. I don't know how that accent was for you guys, but I'm like, fuck, are you fucked? It's like, shut the fuck up. Are you fucking serious? And like one of the managers or one of the main volunteers of the hostel's like over in the corner, and like I have to tell him, like, I mean, I don't want to infect people. That was the whole point of getting this test. And I'm like, but I have a flight and it's like 5 p.m. I have a flight at 7 a.m. the next day. I'm like, what the fuck? What do I do? And so I tell the guy who's doing the hostel thing, and he's like, maybe you can get a PCR test. There's a lab, but it closes at 6. He's like, but you're gonna have to put all your stuff in the storage closet. But like, I'm not fully packed to leave the next day. Like, I still had all my shit in my bed, but then I have to get to this place by 6 p.m. to get a PCR test to confirm, hopefully, that I don't in fact have COVID. I'm freaking out. He calls, he talks to them in Spanish at the lab, and then I'm like, fuck, I don't have time to put my shit away. Like, I'm just going to get in the taxi. I'll leave my shit in my room. My stuff is not going to infect anybody while I'm gone. And hop into a taxi. I'm freaking the fuck out. I go in. I pay 180 euros, $200, and then like 15 euros to get there by taxi. I'm like, oh God, this is going to be an expensive endeavor. And then I get the test. I pay so that they'll have it within 3 hours, meaning I won't have to cancel my flight and all this other kind of stuff. And I start to walk back to the hostel while also figuring out, like, fuck, I need to get an Airbnb. Like, I need to find an Airbnb now. It's 6 p.m., like, for that same night. I find this one place. It's 50 euros. I'm like, that's pretty cheap for my own place for a studio, plus a 50 euro cleaning fee. And I was like, all right, well, but then afterwards I'll like be like, hey, can I extend this off the platform for, a week or whatever? So I book it, and then I message him, and he's like, oh, no, it's only available tonight. I'm like, fuck, I just paid 102 euros for one night at this place, trying to save money. And in this interim, like less than an hour, I think, of me walking around trying to coordinate stuff, I get the results back, and I am fucking positive for COVID. I'm like, what the fuck? I'm vaccinated. No. I had this one doctor friend who's like, oh, if you're vaccinated, if you even get it at all, it's a 98% chance that you're not going to pass it on to someone else. I'm like, all right, man. I've never heard that number that high before, but you're a doctor and very confident in what you're saying. And so I call my sister. I'm like, oh my God, I'm freaking out. Like, what do I do here? I do have that Airbnb secured for the night. And I have to take public transit. But like, obviously I have I bought like a hardcore FFP2 mask. But the hostel, the lab was on the other side of town. So like, I had to take public transit back. Like, obviously was as careful as I could be doing that. And I got in and I just started to pack my shit up. And then the hostel guy's like, so did you get the result? And I was like, yep, it's positive. Gathered all my shit together and then like walked in like the hot blazing sun with my hyperhidrosis, like sweating through, plus me being nervous about all this, plus maybe an actual effect of being sick. I don't know. Drenched in sweat. I walk to the Airbnb. The guy is there, and like, he's not wearing a mask, and I don't want to be like, hey, I have COVID, put your mask on, and by the way, I'm staying in your place tonight. But like once he saw I wasn't taking my mask off, he put his on, and I'm like walking up 4.5 flights of stairs, just drenched. I probably started to get suspicious. It's like, who's this sweaty motherfucker that looks nervous and only wants one night last minute wearing a mask inside? And I stay there, and thank God, I had to message all the comics that I was on shows with and be like, FYI. Thank God one of the comics was watching another comic's place who had just left back for the States, and so like had an open apartment. And long story short, he ended up offering it to me, and that's where I am right now. Like, thank the Lord for him. He is this has been quite the blessing. So here I am. It is Monday. I got diagnosed last Tuesday. I fucking got COVID while I was fully vaccinated. And of course, this led other people to getting vaccinated. Like, oh, it's just an innocent cough. It's a party cough. Oh, I'm just, it's hangover symptoms. Oh, it's a headache, a little bit of fever. And this leads to a number of people testing positive who probably would not have been tested otherwise. And a number of those people are fully vaccinated. So I'm fully vaccinated. They're fully vaccinated. Some people lost their sense of taste. Some people just had a sore throat. Some people were really like lethargic. I don't know what variant I have. Like, they probably sent it to a lab to sequence it, but we're not given that information. Presumably I have the Delta or something like much worse, but this thing is breaking through the vaccines, which sucks. I have come to believe in the last week, this thing is just here to stay. Like, we're all going to get some variant of COVID at some point, and you obviously try to mitigate the symptoms that you have, but it's going to end up being like the flu. Like, it's just going to keep going around one way or another. We were not faster than the virus, the mutations. It's insane to think that because some Chinese guy forgot to wash his shoe, walking out of a little laboratory that traveled the world and then decided to get it was going through like its awkward teenage years, decided to get a makeover in India. And now whatever that is inside my body. What a journey it has taken. What a journey I've taken. I've been in 6 countries and 17 states, remaining relatively safe as one can be, and like staying sane during all that, and did not contract that virus. And then I get vaccinated in a mere 12 hours before I'm supposed to hop on a fucking plane to finally settle my life, which I've been trying to do for these last 17 months. I get COVID, and now I'm stuck in Barcelona. And I'm stuck in Barcelona in part because I had to tell Airbnb, hey, look, I have COVID. You need to cancel my reservation that's starting tomorrow. And they said, sure, no problem. Just upload your proof. And I did. And then I got a call or an email last night saying, by the way, we've suspended your account because you're a COVID risk. So now when I'm trying to find new housing in Berlin, I can't, because even though I'm quarantining right now, and I tested negative on my most recent antigen test yesterday, now I'm a COVID risk. And my blood is boiling, as I mentioned at the beginning, because, well, everything. But then they wait 6 days, and then they tell me my account's suspended. Then the woman's like, oh, I'll call you tomorrow at 2 p.m. COT. I'm like, what the fuck is COT? It's like some Colombian time. I'm like, you didn't ask if I was available. Also, I'm not. And also, just fine. I'm quarantining. Like, I'm better. I'm getting there. Like, don't block my account. I write back. I call. Okay, well, we'll call you at noon tomorrow. Did she call? No. It's 5:06 p.m. right now. And then the new booking that I did have for this week, assuming I was going to be better and able to fly, it's a ghost account. So there's a bunch of people who have Airbnb accounts that set them up in like 2012 or whatever, and they never bother to close them. So it appears that you can book their place. This one was as recent as, like January 2020. I'm like, okay, that makes sense. We had the pandemic. There's a reason they're not active. I booked a place. It's confirmed. They take the money out of your account. And then I call the number, or I try to like WhatsApp it. It's not on WhatsApp. And then I call it through the Airbnb app, and like some woman answers. She's like, "Nah, this is not Patrick's number. He hasn't had this number for. People keep calling for Patrick. I don't know Patrick, but he hasn't had it for 2 years." So I'm like, "Great, this is not a real listing anymore." And then that becomes the whole thing with Airbnb to try to get a hold of them. I've been on the phone for probably about 3 hours total in the last like 3 days with Airbnb. And I, every time, have to repeat myself. No, here's the situation. No, here's the problem. No, you said that the deadline for the guy to get back was yesterday. No, it was last night. No, it was today. No, not another 24 hours. I need to know where the fuck I'm going to stay this week. And so the most recent one I talked to, I was just, my blood was fucking boiling. And I have a temper. And it's not good. And I know that. But when I have to repeat myself over and over again, and you have these fucking billionaire tech companies out of San Francisco where everyone's riding around on a goddamn scooter in the office and throwing popcorn in each other's mouths, playing beer pong, having gourmet fucking meals and getting a manicure and their teeth taken care of, and a chiropractor working their kinks out their back while their fucking oil and tires are being changed on their car. And meanwhile, they outsource this work to these poor people in these other countries who have to deal with assholes like me yelling at them because of their company's shitty-ass policies while they're paying them 30 cents an hour. And I just like let loose on this woman, and I'm so frustrated, and I pulled myself back. I said, "I'm sorry. It's not you. I know you're just doing your job. You're being lovely. I'm sorry you have to put up with assholes like me. We are both in a bad position because of this fucking company. I'm from San Francisco. I know exactly how these tech companies work. I've seen it myself. And they put both of us in this position where they're treating me like shit and they're treating you like shit. And I'm sorry that you're having to deal with it. And you're a lovely person. And I hope that one day you're able to do the things you want to do in life and able to work for a company that has some ethics and doesn't treat both of us like crap. I know you're just doing your job and you need to make a wage, and I'm sorry to have contributed to your day being crappy, but this company sucks. Not you, the company, Airbnb, sucks, and we'll just have to blame capitalism and survive the best we can. I wish you all the best in life." And I think I almost made her cry. She stopped and and the whole call is being recorded, right? Like, she can't say anything shitty about her company. She's like, "Thank you. That really, truly does mean a lot to me. And I also wish you the best. And just thank you for that." So anyway, and then my mom calls me last night, and I also fucking go off because she's like, "Well, Eric, I think it's a good thing that you're not in Berlin right now because, have you seen all of those floods in Germany?" Now, there's two problems with this. One, don't try to spin everything I just got done talking about as being a positive, good experience for me. Like, hear me out. I am not having a good time with this, okay? That's the first thing. Don't invalidate my feelings. The second thing is, those floods she's talking about are an 8-hour drive away from Berlin. My family has no concept whatsoever of geography, not even within the United States, let alone outside of it. Now, that's fine. I don't expect if someone named, I can't pinpoint on a map where Dusseldorf is, but I live in Berlin. It's the capital of the country. Now, that's true. There have been horrendous floods in Germany. But if you're going to take it upon yourself to express concern about those two things, you could say, "I heard about these floods. Is that anywhere near Berlin?" Because the answer is no. It's on the other side of the country. And so I said to her, "Mom, there's been a shooting in Tulsa, Oklahoma. Better dive and get under the couch." Now, that's insane, right? Because a bullet from Tulsa, Oklahoma wouldn't fly across the country and pose a threat in the Bay Area. Similarly, floods on the other side of the country in Germany would not pose a threat to Berlin. Now, again, that's okay if you don't know the relationship between where Berlin is and the floods, but say as much. And when I insisted that that was not a threat, she dug her heels in and said, no, and then flipped from saying West Germany to East Germany. which is still not where the floods are, and said, no, I'll send you the article. And I could not deal, and I hung up, and I was very angry, and it just keeps coming, folks. So now I have to figure out how and when I can get to Berlin. I can't take a risk that I won't have housing there. Like, I'm trying to find, like, obviously normal housing, but that's already been an issue. I've been looking for vegas or apartments since January. But Airbnb was like an expensive way to float myself while I was doing that. But now if that's taken off the table until I can present a negative PCR test, I'm going to be positive on a PCR test potentially for 3 months. I'm building up more antibodies because I'm infected. So I don't know what test I need to prove to Airbnb I'm fine. In addition to that, like, because Spain is doing so poorly, like, it may be put on a list now in Germany where, like, I actually do have to test negative to get in. That was the whole thing. I didn't have to test to get into Germany. I proactively did it because I'm such a good fucking human being. And now look where I wound up because of that. And along with everyone else. I haven't had a drink since that quarter of a beer on Tuesday, so that's good, right? Like, probably the healthiest I've been in a couple months. That's good. Been working out, doing my insanity here. Watering the plants of my friend on the balcony, talking to them. That's the good thing about plants, right? They can't run away when you have a temper. They're still there, thirsty as ever for your love and affection. Thank you guys so much for listening. God damn it, I hope I'm going to be back in Berlin next time I talk to you. I'm sure I'm forgetting tons of other shit to talk about. My symptoms basically were basically just like a minor cold with a dry cough, persistent dry cough. I still kind of have a cough, and I still kind of feel like the tail end of a cold, a little sniffly. Even at its worst, though, I mean, I was coughing a lot the previous Monday, and then it's like the night I got diagnosed, and the next night I had like a mild fever at night. But otherwise, it is a good thing I got vaccinated. I'm fucking pissed at the Johnson & Johnson one. I wish I'd gotten the double vaxxed with one of the other ones. Like, at the time, they all seemed like they were super scarce, and it was like, just get what you can. And then fast forward like 3 weeks after that, like, no one was getting vaccinated. There was just like this fucking abundance of leftover vaccines in the U.S. that I could have gotten. But oh well, here we are. Now, hopefully, I'm super strong, super immune until the upsilon or whatever the fucking Greek letter 7 rows down develops, and I get infected with that one. I don't know. You guys follow me at Eric on the World on Instagram or Eric on the World on YouTube. Leave me a review. I haven't asked for that in a while. If you could, in iTunes, it would mean the world to me. In Apple Podcasts, leave a review and a 5-star rating. Rate me whatever the fuck you want. I don't care, man. Well, it's good to have someone to talk to. Thanks, guys, so much for listening. Don't get COVID, or do get COVID and get the fuck out of the way. Try to get vaccinated first. And until next time, no matter where you are in the world, be well and be loved, for God's sake. This romance threw itself off the 30th floor again.